Meeting to order. First thing we'll do is take roll. So Department Board Chair here, Matt McGrath,
Here.
Claire Johnson,
We have heard from Commissioner Johnson. She will be late 10 to 15 minutes.
we have J. Michael Cruz, Vice Chair,
Present.
and Claire Edelman Heath
Here.
Present.
and Michael Ruma.
Here.
Great, thank you. We have a forum. On to item C, upcoming events. Reminder to please look at flagstaff365.com for upcoming events. Item 2 in that, the Assistance League of Flagstaff is unveiling Joel Geist Generous mural tomorrow, or not, is it tomorrow? September, yes, sorry. September 10th at 3:00 p.m. at the Cedar Closet Thrift Shop. Hope everybody that would like to attend can attend. Love to see some commissioners there.
And then for the art administrators meeting on September 20th, you should all have gotten your invitations. If you saw something from Julie Sokol, please respond and register through Julie Sokol because you have to take out your lunch as part of that process. You won't get lunch if you don't register. Okay, so, but I know some people saw it from Julie Sokol instead of from me and didn't possibly realize that they needed to do that. So I wanted to make that announcement. And then, of course, we are moving the October BPAC meeting for retreat on the October 25th. Oh, it's more details on that to come.
And then moving on to item D, public participation. Do we have any public participation today?
No, we received nothing.
Okay. And then item E, approval of the August minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read those? Can we get a motion?
Approve. Approve.
Uh-huh.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone against? Motion carries, it's unanimous. And then item item F, announcements. Do we have any staff announcements?
Yes, Corey is going to give an announcement on the update on Bushmaster Orchard, and you can do it from here.
Okay, sure. I have a PowerPoint for this,
Oh,
just
yes.
some images to share. So one of our BIA grants was the orchard at Bushmaster Park, and they had their planting day mid-August. There we go. And it had really great turnout from the community, and everything was very good and positive. This is more, whoops, big reveal. So that's what it looked like before. Irrigation lines were in, protective cages up. But 2 weeks later, August 25th, there was some vandalism at that site. Some of the cages were kicked in and trees broken in half. Some of the trees were uprooted in their entirety. So that was very sad and disappointing. But the good news is Alexi, our grant award recipient, has already replaced those damaged trees and salvaged what he can with the cages that were protecting the trees.
We also know that Parks has requested from the police department some extra members for a while. We don't know if it was, somebody who just got rambunctious or if somebody was deliberately targeting it. Don't know.
How extensive was the damage? How extensive was the damage?
When I got the alert, so it happened over the weekend, and I went out on the Tuesday afterwards, and Alexi had already replanted and fixed things. So I didn't even notice, we didn't get a number from him, how many of the trees were damaged. And he had a partnership grant with sustainability, and they offered to give him more funds to help cover some of that damage.
We do know that there was a complaint to Parks about the orchard. You know, they thought, you know, if there's fruit trees there, someday they'll, you know, the fruit will fall and there'll be animals and nobody at Parks will maintain it. And there was a complaint, but we have no reason to think that that was directly connected. All right, so I just want to announce at the next announcements that we will have an appointment for the replacement of Commissioner Barrel. It will occur at September 17th, a city council meeting. I do not know who it will be. We don't get to know until council announces, but we do have 5 applicants, 5 strong applicants. So I'm excited to welcome a new commissioner for the retreat. They're gonna just jump right in.
Trial by fire.
Right.
Great time to start, actually.
And, oh, okay, so I was bad. Let me, they're not in my briefcase. I don't think. Let me double check, see if I have the new, maybe I can call on Dave McIntyre to go grab some BBB business cards. Sure. I bet you have some. You gave me some and I know the reason I gave it. So while he does that, just to, you know, remember, we educate, but we don't, you know, as commissioners, we don't, you know, push it. But there is the BBB tax is up on the next election. And it might help to have some business cards so people can go to the website and get full education on that. It does fund our entire program. So really good. And then I'm going to let Krista hand out your name tags that kind of match ours. And this is a kind of. The wording is slightly different.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it says Beautification and Public Art Commissioner instead of Beautification, Arts and Sciences.
Oh,
I've
right.
used your names 100 times, but in the event that I misspelled your name, please let
Thank
me
you.
know. Reprint.
Thank you.
All right.
And Commissioner Edelman Heath and Johnson, your name tags are here. So we'll keep them safe for you.
Thank you. I'll make my way down the hall
They are
later
really
this week.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, please feel free to pass these out and they have the QR code to the website. Okay, and then we're just gonna reorder the agenda. We're going to do H1 prior to G2 and H2. So let's take H1, which is,
We're gonna start with
actually,
G1.
we're gonna start with G1. That's right. We're gonna start with G1, then go to H1, and then G2, H2. It's like alternating. All right, so with that, we will turn it over to Manny Hernandez, the Downtown Business Alliance.
Vice Chair.
There's chair and vice chair announcements.
Oh, we do need to do the vice chair announcements. I apologize.
So item 5, chair and vice chair announcements. Just for chair announcements, all I was going to say is I did have the opportunity to stop by the mural on the site of Habitat for Humanity. And I made a point of doing so while the artist was there. So
Oh, nice.
I could visit her while she was putting it up. In addition to having a very cute kitten named Squish. She was really nice to engage with her. She lives in Valley. For some reason, I thought she had lived further away, but she's actually fairly local. So I encouraged her to continue to contribute art to the community. It turned out really beautifully. So it was fantastic. And then were there any vice chair announcements?
They're not.
Thank you. And then any other commissioner announcements? And our council liaison. Awesome. So moving on to action items, G1 first.
Yes.
So BIA grant APS cabinet art wrap at Lumberyard Room.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here.
Go ahead.
All right, so I'm Manny. I'm with the Downtown Business Alliance. We were provisionally approved a while ago for our wrap over on the south side in the public paid parking lot at Lumberyard attached to their building. We did have a selection panel that consisted of myself, Kristen, as well as the owner of Lumberyard Brewery, as well as our media manager at the Downtown Business Alliance and our executive director. So overwhelmingly, we had a number one pick, which I will bring up right now. This is the current state of the electrical box, and this is what it would look like with the art in the panels. So this is by a local artist, Alex Albert. I have a description of the piece as well as their inspiration that I'll go ahead and share with you. You can see they divided it up into what it would look like on each panel so you can have a good representation of what the art would look like. So we'll go ahead and read their artist statement. This piece is a celebration of both Flagstaff brewing culture and its rich astronomical heritage located by Lumberyard Brewery Company in Flagstaff, known for its vibrant community and unique brews. This city's breweries are more than just places to enjoy a drink. They're a space of artistic expression where each brew is crafted with care, creativity, and a deep understanding of the art of brewing. Lumberyard Brewing Company is a prime example of this craft, making it an ideal location to inspire a work that captures the spirit of Flagstaff. The backdrop of space plays a crucial role in this piece, paying homage to Flagstaff's esteemed status as the world's first international dark sky city. This recognition did not only highlight the city's commitment to preserving its night skies, but also honors its significant contributions to astronomy, including the discovery of Pluto in 1930. The stars, planets, and cosmic elements within this artwork are a nod to its legacy, intertwining the city's history with its present-day celebration of its culture. When conceptualizing this piece, I was drawn to the idea of creating something that would burst with energy and color, much like Flagstaff itself. The colors were chosen to be bold and vibrant, reflecting the dynamic spirit of the city. The explosive burst of color emanating from the clinking glasses was envisioned as a fusion of fireworks and a galaxy, a visual metaphor for the celebration of life and community that Flagstaff embodies. The process of bringing the idea to life was deeply rooted in the setting and feelings it evoked. Flagstaff, with its unique blend of natural beauty, cultural richness, and scientific significance, is a place that inspires creativity and joy. This artwork aims to encapsulate that feeling, the joy of sharing a toast, the thrill of discovery, and the awe of the cosmos, an element that makes Flagstaff a special place. The clinking of glasses symbolizes not just the celebration of good times with good company, but also a celebration of the city itself, its people, and its place in the larger universe. End the quote. As I mentioned, this overwhelmingly won the majority of our selection panel. They picked a first as well as second place winner. In second place, I will show you this next one by Shiara Shrift, who was picked as the runner-up, but by a pretty long margin. And then also in third place, with only one vote, was his piece by Ariana Foley, which was in third place. So I'll go back to this first one here, and I am going to take any questions or comments.
I was curious what the criteria was to make your first, second, and third choices, or if it was just, hey, pick your favorite. Or
It was pick your favorites. Yes, so they had the selection committee was allowed to pick their first favorite and a second favorite, and we did ranked choice voting throughout all of us.
How many total were submitted?
We had, I believe, 14 were submitted.
Impressive.
Does anyone online have questions? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the selection? Great, any discussion? All right, then let's go ahead, all in favor, aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Great. Passes.
Okay, we'll go for it. We have the verbal permission from APS, but we still have paperwork to sign with them, so you can't install it until that's done.
So now we're gonna reorder to H1, correct?
Yes,
So H1 is a discussion item, not a voting item.
yes.
So new project, Huntington Drive, Gabion Wall.
Okay, so can we pick up the presentation and we'll pick up the, maybe you get to get in the hot spot.
Oh, perfect.
See,
Hey, Manny.
Thank you.
All yours.
All right, good deal. Thank you, BPAC Chair, committee members. My name is Dave Nixon. I'm a new project manager with Capital Improvements. Again, thank you for getting the proposed Huntington Drive Gabion Wall project on the agenda and affording me an opportunity to present what this might be all about. And briefly, we'll cover location of the project, existing conditions, scope of the proposed project. Why does this project beautify our great city? Procurement options, beautification, arts and sciences staff requirements, and then finally an estimated budget for the work. Okay, location. The project is on the south side of Huntington Drive, just a little bit west of 4th Street and across from Horizon Road. It's located in the public right of way. That's kind of the area that sits below the Gore complex. Okay. And generally, the project consists of removal of the existing concrete Jersey barriers along Huntington Drive. And there's about 475 lineal feet of these Jersey barriers. And our proposed project includes removal of these barriers and replacing them with an engineered Gabion wall behind the sidewalk, which is currently take the place of the barriers. And the size of the Gabion wall, again, would be about the same lineal feet and approximately the same height, which is approximately 3 feet.
Mr. Nixon, those, you might be getting towards them, but they get a lot of graffiti. Is that correct?
Yes, so I've been out there off and on since I've been with Capital Improvements, and I've seen a variety of graffiti, and then if you get there the next day, it's painted over. And so it seems like it's an ongoing area of that these individuals like to tag. So that has been my limited experience. I believe they've been out there for a number of years, so I'm guessing this may be an ongoing issue. Why is this project beautification? Temporary Jersey barriers are unsightly and they're prone to being tagged with graffiti. Like we just covered, and this is just an example where they had recently painted over some of the more recent graffiti. All right, proposed solution. I feel like I'm kind of going on repeat because this is not a super involved project, but the new Gabion wall, it would blend in with the natural environment, and it doesn't provide that smooth surface that seems to be so useful in a graffiti artist's work. So this would change that up, and again, it would be about the same height as the Gabion wall. It just wouldn't loan itself to be in that kind of go-to environment for the spray can. Procurement options for design. We would be looking at on-call professional design services through our on-call contract. And then as far as construction, one proposed method would be the job order contract and vehicle that we have. And that project falls within the procurement limits for our JOC procurement contract. Beautification, arts and sciences, staff considerations. Staff demands are forecast as minimal. Material selection and color selection at this time would be what is anticipated for the area.
So it would have a capital project manager being the lead project manager.
That is correct. And that would more than likely be myself, and then just with input, obviously, from the group here. Yeah. Looking around the site and kind of the area, this would be outside of the construction limits, but I thought it was relevant. This is adjacent existing conditions on the north side of Huntington Drive. And there's about 300 lineal feet of this split-faced CMU wall. And it's not in the greatest of shapes, and I'm not trying to grow the project to across the street, but this just gives an idea of what is happening across Huntington. And there's about 300 feet of this, and it does seem less prone to graffiti. I don't know if it's the split-face nature, or who knows, there might be cameras or more activity on that side. So that's what's across the street on Huntington. Similar amount of the project limits. And the budget for this rough order of magnitude budget for this work is $410,000. And with that, I would turn it over to any questions or discussion items that we could generate or are appropriate at this time.
Great. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. So this $410,000 is coming out of BPAC's funds?
Yeah,
All of it?
all of it,
Uh,
100%.
Well, then the other thing that I wonder about is why, so when I think about this, I'm reminded of the walls in Scottsdale that have the murals in that neighborhood. It's part of like some sort of a drive. And I wonder about like, why would we, if it's prone to tagging, why would we not do something that's more substantial and then open it up for like mural proposals or something rather than just the Albion wall or whatever that thing is called? Thank you.
Yeah, one of the reasons would be that would require much more staff time. That would be, it would become much more of an art project versus a straightforward streetscape beautification project. As you know, the beautification, arts and sciences, beautification used to be more dedicated more to just these kind of streetscape improvements. And so in that way, it's keeping that, part of the program offerings, in place. But yes, if all of a sudden it's an art project, then it's our staff time. This, giving a little input on what rock goes into the gabion, and the exact design of the cage of the gabion is minimal. We're not hired for this.
Is it an emergency or is it something we can talk about at the retreat?
Yeah, we will be talking about it at the retreat. That's why it's only a discussion item here, and it's the time to tell us some of your initial thoughts so that we can see how we can address them and bring it back to the retreat for approval.
I do have a question for you, and also a question for you. One of the things we have traditionally struggled with a little bit in our meetings is that separation of the beautification money and the arts money, because those are two different buckets.
Right.
And we have a pretty significant bucket for beautification.
Right. It's our big bucket, and we don't spend it.
And we can't spend beautification on a mural.
No, you can't. I can't.
Okay, so I mean, but just, they're differentiated types of projects, streetscapes. And
But
then,
if the mural's kind of on a street, then it actually would come out of the same bucket.
okay,
So
okay.
I don't wanna,
No, I want to be really clear.
but I do wanna say that we do have plenty of funds.
And then, and I mean, kind of, one of the, because we talked about a lot at the retreat, is the difference between the staff time budget and the actual money budget. And we always struggle because we actually usually spend our staff time budget far more quickly than we spend our money budget. So then the question for you guys actually, and I'm just really curious, why this wall, this like now, what was the thing that, why are you passionate about this one?
Steve.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Mood. I'm the city engineer. I drove my son to basketball camp every morning this summer and looked up that Gabion wall. And I contacted Jenna. I said, is there a way we can beautify this?
Cool.
That's really the genesis of the project.
That's cool. I like a champion.
Question slash comment to that. Like Huntington Drive is pretty long actually, and 455 feet, however many feet it was, it's like a drop in a bucket. Has any thought been given to a more holistic like Huntington Drive rather than like you showed us that photo of that other wall, which is super helpful, but it's very different than what we're proposing here right across the street, and then something different goes across the street, and it just like it feels like just patching things
Yeah,
together rather than
But
necessarily.
there was a project several years ago to realign Huntington Drive. And then that slope was put back and then that slope kept sloughing off. So the Jersey barriers were just put in place to keep the material behind it from going into the sidewalk. Public Works was out there all the time cleaning the sidewalks. So that's why the Jersey barriers have stayed there for how many years?
About 2010.
Yeah, so they've been out there a while.
And then how far back from the sidewalk would the Gabion be?
It would be relatively close. Right now, those Jersey barriers are adjacent in the literal sense to the sidewalk. And because of the nature of, like Paul mentioned, the slope, we could only push back so far with regards to safety and keeping that. So the Gabion wall would be enough, and it would also be a piece of retainage to keep everything just pushed back and that sidewalk open for the public.
And the reason I ask is I'm just curious if there's room for plantings or anything in between
Yeah,
the
maybe.
sidewalk.
Yeah, in one of the photos, there is between the back of the curb. And the sidewalk, so there is a small strip, yes.
Small.
It's enough for weeds at the moment.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. We have many native weeds that are beautiful. That's all my questions.
I had a couple questions. You used the term temporary when describing the Jersey barriers, and they've been there for 14 years.
Right,
What is the lifespan of those things, and what would be the lifespan of a wall like this?
it's a great question. I think the lifespan of those Jersey barriers, provided nobody runs their truck through them, is indefinite. They are just set on they may have braided it, might have put some maybe down, but I mean, those are pretty darn heavy. I don't have the number, the tonnage of each of those barriers. Off the top of my head, I would say the engineered Gabion wall would have a footing, and we'd also have some other structural retainage kind of loading component to it. So it would be, I would say, the same, or would be the intent, was to be set up for design to make it equal to what the temporary Jersey barriers are currently doing.
And because that is holding up a hill that tends to slough off, and the Gabion wall is a bit more porous than the Jersey barriers, correct?
Yes, so as far as moisture and being able to come through, and that is another one of the reasons that I think the Gabion wall was thought it was an initial idea, so we wouldn't be hydrostatically loading behind that wall. It would still be, but yeah, and that would come in, it would need to be engineered. We can't just pick up a Gabion wall from Home Depot because of the nature of this project is a little bit different. So like a typical Gabion wall is a little bit wider and so on and so forth. But here we have a narrow section to work with, so it would be some footing work. There are two little pieces of utility that there's some phone line that goes across Huntington, but it doesn't appear to be running in that easement. But yeah, so those are great questions. I hope I provided a decent answer for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Claire Hasry. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Edelman Heath.
Hi, thanks, Carla and Annalisa. Yeah, I had a couple thoughts when thinking about the Gabions as a beautification project. I think they could be great for this application. A couple of the thoughts, I think it'd be really important that they're welded wire mesh baskets and not the fabric netting type that tend to be not hold their shape and form. That was what we saw in the photos, and I think that would be a really important piece. They are can be a slightly higher cost. I don't know what you might have included in the budget so far, but I think aesthetically that would be important. And then the fill, it'd be nice to see and give some thought to that. And then I don't know if there's any way we could set aside something for maintenance in the future. Seeing the kind of weeds in the sidewalk. We live in a high desert where things love to grow in rocks, and I would expect that we'll get a lot of plant friends on the top of those gabions. And that may not be a bad thing. Some extra wildflowers could be worse, but I do think some care for that. I did notice that one tree that I think is invasive there, we'd want to get on top of that and not have that become part of the system. So I think that's I'll stop there. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Understand? Yeah, very good.
Any other discussion?
You will see this project again. It will be part of the retreat, part of the project. You can decide at that time whether you want to include it and in what year.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I believe we're moving back to items.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Nice to meet you.
Nice for you guys to come. Come on.
How often an engineer does a beautification, wants to do a beautification project?
Yeah, right.
It's exactly the kind of engineering my sister-in-law does.
Yes.
Great. So moving on to item G2. These are the recommended art proposals for multicultural county park sculpture exhibition year 2.
Waiting for the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is it called, Kristen?
Is that the
Is that
PAC,
one? PAC,
MPSC, yes, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Oh, okay. Good afternoon. I am here to present the recommended proposals and recommended alternates for year 2 of the Multicultural County Park Sculpture Exhibition at the Elizabeth Lissy Archuleta County Park. So before we review the proposals, I just want to provide you with the selection process outline here. We'll be going over the outreach, criteria for scoring artists, who served on our selection panel, and then finally we will be reviewing the proposals, the recommended proposals, excuse me, as well as the alternate proposals. So the call to artists was a national call, but it really had a regional focus, as it did last year, which resulted in 22 applicants and 31 proposals. So it was an increase of 100% since last year with regard to applicants and 120% increase in proposals. This year, we replicated much of what we did last year. So that includes targeted emails to our listserv. It also included personalized emails to over 100 organizations and colleagues and artists. We were also included on social media platforms, not only ours, but also other nonprofits in the region. It was posted again nationally on Coda Works and then statewide on Arizona Commission on the Arts and the Arts Foundation for Southern Arizona, their opportunities pages. Again, with our regional focus, we were also included in the city of Albuquerque's opportunities page as well. And then we decided to go to Sculpture Tucson's annual Sculpture Festival show and sale this year. And that was a wonderful opportunity and the location to recruit artists. That resulted in 5 applicants and 9 proposals, one of which is a recommended proposal for year 2 of the sculpture exhibition. Okay, so here's some information about the Elizabeth Lissy Archuleta County Park. So this location has a rich history. It was the location of one of Flagstaff's first sawmills, which operated from 1908 until 1993. And the logging and lumber industry really changed the structure of Flagstaff. So we had diverse cultures coming into this area to work in the logging and lumber industries, including Mexican, Mexican-American, African-American, Swedish, and Polish families. Today, it is frequented by a myriad of City of Flagstaff residents and visitors. That includes young professionals, NAU students, the racially diverse and historic South Side, and then individuals and families of the nearby Coconino County Juvenile Court. And they really speak about the healing qualities of being enveloped within art and nature. So here's the art location. Again, we have 5 sculpture pads along a sculpture walk, and the sculpture pads are designated in yellow. And I've included 2 sculptures from this year's exhibition, so you can see how those sculptures, if you haven't been out there, but hopefully you have, how they look on the sculpture pad. And this is the project vision. So again, year 2, we're looking at a temporary outdoor exhibition being installed in May of 2025, and then those sculptures being on view through March 2026. And they can be existing or newly created artworks. And they must be able to withstand, this is very important, Flagstaff's high desert climate and our 200 freeze thaw days each year. So they have to be very durable. This is the project vision or continuation of that project vision, and this was shared out in the call to artists. We really left it up to the artists as to how they wanted their artworks to reflect cultural representation, and you'll see that in the sculptures that we will be reviewing in a bit. But we did provide some guidance, and that is that each sculpture, initiates appreciation, conversation, and interaction. And it is our hope, and we think this has already come to be, that this park is now an outdoor sculpture venue in northern Arizona. Here is the project budget. Again, payment to the artist for the loan of their newly commissioned or existing artwork is up to $25,000. So artists delineated all of their expenses in their budget. And as you will see, some budgets are very detailed, some are not very detailed, but all meet the requirements for this project. And here's the evaluation criteria that the selection panel utilized. 100 points is possible, up to 30 points for suitability and durability of the sculpture. Another 30 points for the originality or visual quality of the artwork proposal, which simply means, is it good art? Does it resonate, or did it resonate with the selection panelist? Do they find it aesthetically pleasing, etc. And then 40 points for how well the proposed 3D artwork functions at the site. So you could also equate this with storytelling. How or what story does the sculpture tell? Is the story told in a good way? And does the artwork, function or complement other potential artworks that each selection panelist was choosing? It's important to note that the sculptures do not have to match, but they do have to interact with one another. They do have to speak to one another. And you'll see that they do in the sculptures that we review. A special thank you to our 8-person panel from the Beautification Public Art Commission, J. Michael Cruz, Carla McCord, who are now chair and vice chair. It's the City of Flagstaff Indigenous Commission. We have Diana Kudiai. From the Commission on Diversity Awareness, Angelica Sanchez, of course, Rose Tohi, Coordinator for Indigenous Initiatives. And then from Coconino County, the Hispanic Advisory Council, Ruth Eaton, Indigenous Peoples Advisory Committee, Mike Luna, and the African Diaspora Advisory Committee, Ken Gata, Callan. So a huge thank you. We were able to get our selection panel meeting to just under 3 hours, which was fantastic. So special thanks to all of the panelists for participating. So we are halfway down this list right now. By September 30th, BPAC approval, September 9th, and notification to artists. So I have completed initial drafts of all the contracts. Those will go shortly to Coconino County for a safety review before artists can sign. We're hoping to offer contracts by late September, and then a notification to artists to proceed by October 25th. And this will give artists who are creating new works approximately 6 months for fabrication. Then again, a tentative exhibition opening in May, tentative date perhaps May 16th, and then the artworks are on view until March of 2026. So here are our 5 finalists. We have Joe Ray, Adrian Wall, Lance Yazzie, Isaac Caruso, and Oliverio Valsos. So let's look at a proposal by Joe Ray. Joe is an artist from the Valley, and he is proposing a new sculpture entitled Celestial Juggler, and this is part of his Time Traveler series. So this sculpture, it is about these pre-Columbian deities who travel to contemporary society to really satiate their desire for all that is modern and to connect with their ancestors, learn more about Chicano and Latinx culture. And it also celebrates Flagstaff's astronomical research as well, and our commitment to dark skies. And so this is a large-scale sculpture, 10 feet high by 5 feet wide. It's fabricated from laser-cut steel. This is the artist's budget. This is a few samples of the artist's previous works. And here is Celestial Juggler. Right, this is not advancing. Annalisa, are you able to advance that slide?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, The next proposal is by Adrian Wall. Slide again. This is not, I think the battery might have died. Okay, Adrian is proposing an existing sculpture entitled The Thunderstorm. Adrian is a native artist. He resides in New Mexico, and he is deeply interested in climate change. He is also deeply interested in his culture's reverence for the rain. So this particular sculpture combines both of the artist's interests. I do want to note that this sculpture that we will be looking at, The Thunderstorm, has been accepted and is on view currently at the Santa Fe Botanical Gardens Sculpture Show. So in the event that this sculpture sells, it would not be able to be on display at our exhibition. But we have a solution, and I will be discussing that momentarily. Thunderstorm is 74 inches in height, 32 inches in width, and 24 inches in depth, and it weighs approximately 900 pounds. This is the artist's budget. Here are a few examples of Adrian's artwork. And that skipped ahead. Here is The Thunderstorm by Adrian Wall. So in the event that this particular sculpture sells while it is on display in Santa Fe, the selection panel would like to propose a substitute artwork also by Adrian Wall. And this is entitled Sue You, and that translates to the storm. So this sculpture is also large scale. It would be a newly created or fabricated artwork. It also draws from the artist's concern with global warming and interest in storms, especially as they relate to his culture. And the sculpture stands 7 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and 1 foot in diameter, and it would have an estimated weight of 3,000 pounds. Here's the budget. And here's the proposed artwork. Moving forward, the next proposal is for a newly created artwork by Lance Yazzie, and he is a Danette artist from Tuba City. And he proposes a large-scale sculpture of changing woman who is revered in Navajo culture, and she is responsible for creating the first 4 Navajo clans. She is also responsible for giving birth to the hero twins who destroyed the monsters and protected the Navajo people. The sculpture would be fabricated out of Indiana or Kansas limestone. It would be 6 feet tall, 3 feet wide, and 1.5 feet in depth, excuse me. This is the artist's budget. Here are a few examples of Lance's previous sculptures. And of course, this is his offering to the San Francisco Peaks, which is a part of this year's sculptural exhibition. And here is Changing Woman. Next up is Isaac Caruso. Isaac is an artist, a public artist in the Valley, and he wants to create artworks that service the community and that unite diverse groups of people. And so his artwork is called Wings of Ancestors, and it is a reminder of all of the wonderful things, the wisdom and the love that our ancestors bring to us. And it's also a reminder to continue that legacy of love. His sculpture would be fabricated from reclaimed ponderosa pine, locally sourced. It would stand 12 feet tall, 8 feet wide, and 2 feet in depth. And it would weigh approximately 500 pounds. And here is Isaac's budget. Here's an example of a previously completed public art sculpture. And this is the proposed artwork. So here we see 2 pairs of hands, one large and older, one smaller and younger. And together they create the shape of the bird, which you see in the shadow. And visitors would be invited to sit beneath the sculpture on the bench, taking shelter from the sun. And again, just being reminded of that wonderful legacy of insight and love that we received from our ancestors. And our last recommended proposal is also by Valley artist Oliverio Balcells. And so in this sculpture, Oliverio wants to share some of his culture, specifically a Mesoamerican tradition. It's called Atul Tlachinoli, and it represents the moment where the rainy season meets the dry season. So it's this beautiful juxtaposition of fire and water and the combination of the two, all about duality, water and scorched earth. It also celebrates, again, Flagstaff's astronomical history by way of Oliverio sharing Mesoamerican cosmology and astronomy with residents and visitors. Flagstaff. So this is fabricated from steel or aluminum cut plate. It would stand 5 feet high and 2 feet wide, and it would weigh approximately 350 pounds. This is the artist's budget. Here are some examples of Oliverio's recent artworks. Of course, you know this one. And here is Oliverio's proposed artwork. And now I will move along to 2 alternate proposals. The first is by Craig Barabee Gray, and the second is by Gideon Nianongo. And so this first alternate sculpture, it's entitled Rockman and Pebble, and you will see it shortly, but it features a man and his dog, and it symbolizes the age-old tradition of traveling. So traveling to find a place to live, traveling to find sustenance, or maybe traveling to raise a family. It is fabricated from stone, and there is an opportunity to incorporate rocks and stones from the region as well. The sculpture is about journeys, but it also could be about the things we choose to keep or the things we choose to leave behind. It stands 48 inches tall, 30 inches wide, and 84 inches in depth, and it would weigh approximately 350 pounds. This is the artist's budget. And this is proposed artwork. Here is the traveler with his trusty companion. And the second alternate is by Gideon Nyanongo, who is also a Valley artist and is currently on exhibit at the Multicultural County Park Sculpture Exhibition. And he is proposing an existing sculpture. It's called Tornado. It is carved from spring stone, and it stands, 52 inches tall, 17 inches wide, and 15 inches in depth, and it weighs approximately 180 pounds. This is the artist's budget. And this is Tornado. Do you have any questions?
So Chair Cruz and excuse me, Chair McCord and Vice Chair Cruz want to share their experience on this election then?
I found it really difficult to choose. I mean, I ranked and scored and in my own proposal, I realized that there were more than 5 who scored really well, just because I thought the quality of the proposals were wonderful. I'm really glad that we had so many people apply, so much interest. I think staff did a tremendous job in recruiting people to apply. So thanks for that. I personally had a really challenging time selecting, just 5 and 2. I think it's a good problem to have, but it was really tough. Thank you for that trip you took to Tucson. Yeah, I was really pleased, and the ones that I wanted won. So yeah, but I did think it was hard, and hats off to you guys, staff, again for the work in getting so many people. I hope that the submission process just grows, especially since we're gonna double the availability of sculpture pads with Florida Park. So yeah.
I agree, it was difficult to score. I actually had to break each scoring category down further and created my own rubric for scoring so that I could ensure that artist number 31 got the same attention that artist number 1 got, because, I mean, you're correct. It was a 3-hour meeting and then it was a lengthy scoring process in order to really give 31
proposals.
Yeah, to give 31 proposals the kind of consideration that they really deserved. And I'm happy with our selections, and I will say that it's not 100% reflective of what my favorites were, and I think that but there are definitely favorites of mine in there. And I think it's really reflective of the effort that the whole committee put into it. I'm happy to see it varies from that. So they're great. It's great work. So I think it was a long and very careful process.
I do wonder about the number of selection panelists. It seemed like getting everybody in the same room for 3 hours was a challenge, and I wonder if that's is it always 8? Did it have to be 8 for this time? Is that
We're actually down 2 from last year.
okay? So last year there were
Last
10
year, 10.
selection panelists.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good to know.
But we do need to tap all those commissions.
Right,
It's because of the joint nature of the county.
yeah, no, I mean, absolutely.
Well, and just the mere nature of it being a multicultural exhibition, I mean, we have to tap into a lot of different groups and make sure that we've got that kind of multicultural representation on the panel. So it was just a big project. It was great. So it wasn't it was a very positive project. Any other questions or discussion?
I noticed that all of the finalists and alternates appear to be men. Was there a dearth of women applicants?
Mhm.
And is there a way that we might reach out to bring more women applicants?
I did a lot of personalized emails and phone
Okay.
calls. No, you're absolutely correct. And this next year as well, I'll continue to reach out to galleries and organizations that have, women's works by women sculptors, available to loan. Also tapping into, we have quite a few artists who've applied for other projects, specifically traffic signal cabinets.
Mhm.
And I've had conversations with them about applying for the 2026, 2027 exhibition, because I think their artwork would translate incredibly well to a 3D format. So really starting that process locally and in the Valley, there's some artists too, but just making those personalized connections and
The reason I laughed, Michael, was because there's a particular female sculptor that we pursued 2 years in a row, keeps saying she'll apply as you. And so that's why I gave out a little laugh because, her work is tremendous. If we could just even borrow one of her,
yes.
works would be great. The other thing that really, we only have, one African-American artist who applied. And that has been a more difficult group to figure out, maybe what city that has a larger African-American population that has sculpture exhibitions. Can we maybe, kind of visit like she did Tucson so that we can get the word out that, this is a place that their work would be, really welcome. And we're brainstorming like crazy on that one.
I believe you. That came to mind because I've been on a lot of hiring committees at the university, and one of the things they always ask us is, where did you do your outreach? Where did you
Yeah, we
put the
have,
job
we
announcement?
have targeted,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
not, doesn't always produce.
No. I absolutely understand that, and I'm thrilled to see that we've got a lot of Indigenous and Latina representation as well as the one African diaspora alternate,
Yes.
which is, I mean, that's admirable, so.
And just as a little bit of background, these guys have done a remarkable job of expanding our artist list over the last couple of years.
On,
It was not as robust.
this was in,
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Not all like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely been a huge outreach effort, to expand, each area of focus.
And I do remember last month, some of the sculptors we saw were women. We had an Asian American woman, so I am happy to see that we are really representing a diverse segment of the population.
And I have a conversation, I'm having another conversation with an artist, from the Valley, who was awarded a traffic signal cabinet up here, and she's a phenomenal illustrator. And when I approached her, she said, I don't even know how my artworks could become 3D. So it's me, I'm going to pulling some examples from her of artists across the country, public artists across the country, that she can start to research, and kind of see that transition and how that might work. Also introducing her to some fabricators that might also help. And they could answer questions for her too about how to make that leap as well. So
That might be a good workshop at some point for you guys.
Yep.
Maybe we can put that on your list.
Create
At the retreat.
Flagstaff, I'll put it on.
Yeah.
They owe us some workshops. But yes.
Well, thank you for all the effort you put into
thank you.
making this.
Very
a
fun.
really
I
diverse,
love this project.
Yeah.
So would Are we ready to make a motion to approve? Let's make a motion to approve.
Go ahead, put it out.
Do we have a
You
second?
first, I'll be second, that's fine.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any against? Unanimous. Motion carries. Okay, and then on to H2, our last discussion item, the BIA grant review guidelines.
Right, so we're gonna go through the background and guidelines of the BIA grants. Our deadline for the fall is September 15th, so we'll be getting our all those applicants in soon, I hope. And then they will be shared with you to discuss and eventually vote on to determine who's gonna receive our BIA grants for the fall of this year. So just in preparation for that, we wanted to go over the guidelines on how to think about judging these applications. So we do the BIA grants once in the fall and once in the spring. So the 15th is the application due date for this cycle. In October, you will review them. And in November, those applicants will come and present to BPAC. And if you have questions, October is the time to communicate those. And then our applicants will be able to address them in November. So examples of projects that BIA grants can fund: public art, of course, murals, mosaics, and sculptures. Also landscaping projects, community gardens, neighborhood improvements, benches, park pathways, and flowers are all viable options. Individuals, communities, not-for-profit organizations, local businesses, educational institutions, all are encouraged to apply. But grants cannot be awarded to political partisan groups, applicants that are discriminatory, applicants who have failed to successfully carry out a previous grant project unless there's appropriate justification made there. And applicants cannot allocate more than $3,250 to artist fees. Just a reminder, the BIA grant allowance has increased to $7,500 for this cycle. So mandatory elements in an eligible project. Of course, spending limitations as defined by the city code. Projects need to be accessible to the public, visible or accessible to the public. Approvals for property use have been obtained or are in the works of being obtained. Projects have to comply with laws and codes. The projects are going to be completed a year from when the grant is awarded. And the applicant needs to arrange for any upkeep and maintenance of their project. Strongly recommended is community engagement, involvement with residents, communities, and demonstrated support of the community. We often ask people to include a letter of support from their community to demonstrate this. And priorities given to projects with lasting benefits to the community, nonprofit groups, and individuals such as artists. Temporary projects can be considered if the public benefit is great enough. We encourage projects, proposals that utilize volunteers and student participation, projects that are inclusive and demonstrate cooperative and collaborative efforts, incorporating meaningful historic context, as well as representing and serving communities that are historically underserved, focusing on equity, enhancing the knowledge and enjoyment of art making or gardening through site beautification, educational historic relevance to the specific community, and enhance the quality of life for people with disabilities. Things that are not allowed The grant is intended for a new physical improvement and really shouldn't be used for support of ongoing programs or services unless it's a new physical improvement project. Duplicating an existing work in public or in private, paying for operating expenses, events, refreshments, publicity, and paying for expenditures or commitments made before the grant was approved. So we discourage projects that are additional improvements to ongoing construction projects and works that would have the effect of signage. And we have this 10% kind of general rule that the signage shouldn't exceed. So that the focus is on the work of art and not any sort of advertising or wayfinding directional. It should be more of a visual art project rather than something textual. And so Annalise, that we have this YouTube link here, if you wouldn't mind playing that for us. Yeah.
and our consciousness by using shortcuts.
Why don't we send us the video?
Okay, take a look at the video. It's just a way of considering how you make decisions and trying to overcome the inherent biases that we all have when we make decisions.
Okay, and, I'll say, I had unconscious bias being in that English people always sound smarter than Americans, so. It's okay.
So when you enjoy it later.
Sorry, Corey.
No surprises. Everybody got to look at the card. Okay, so this is just gonna be a little bit of an overview on how to talk about art in a public forum. The artists use these meetings as a way to improve on their proposals if they're not accepted. They can access these meetings and the commentary that is made. So just be mindful that the artists could be watching and that you want to provide constructive feedback for these people. So the first thing is to make a statement of meaning, say something that's evocative, interesting, exciting, and try to use language that offers your personal interpretation of work rather than a conclusive statement. So Molly Keene recently finished her High Desert Beauty mural at Habitat for Humanity. And this is just an example of something you could say about it. For me, this mural evokes a strong sense of place through imagery that is immediately recognizable to the residents of Flagstaff. Then neutral questions and comments. If you have questions or critiques of the work of art, refer back to the application itself and try to make your questions neutral. So if you were coming into seeing the Cosmic Ray Tunnel completely blind, you might be curious and ask, in their application, has the artist explained their rationale for juxtaposing a cyclist and sheep? Whoops. Here's some improvement missed opportunities. So making suggestions with support from examples where possible about what information would have helped you better understand an applicant's proposal. So using celebrating African Americans in Flagstaff. If we are referring to a separate project, I would have liked to have seen a plan for community involvement in this project because I feel it would better speak to the specific neighborhood as was successfully demonstrated with the mural in Southside. And so this next part, these are things that people commonly say about art in private conversations, even in a joking manner, that aren't necessarily appropriate in talking about art in a public forum. Sometimes these things slip out. And so I find that when you do catch yourself saying something that maybe could have been worded differently, you can correct yourself by saying, what I mean by that is. So my kid could do that. What I mean by that is, this has elements of childhood like finger painting that I appreciate, but others may struggle to interpret or find resonance with. I feel the technical abilities of the artwork in this application is not at the level we expect for successful projects. Another one, this subject is so overdone or trite. What I mean by that is the sculpture is skillfully crafted, has the artist shared what makes the sculpture different from similar works, citing examples where you can that we have seen. I just don't like it. It's creepy. What I mean by that is, whoops. Okay. I'm finding something unsettling about this imagery. My reaction doesn't seem to fit with the goal of this project. Would those who are in favor of this work like to share what they find compelling about it? It's too dark, it's too blurry, another descriptor. You're setting up a comparison that doesn't exist. And so if you hear maybe one of your fellow commissioners say something like this, you could ask, what do you mean by that? I wonder if the work in this project might be more effective in another hue and if the artist would be agreeable to exploring this. So that's just a little overview of examples.
Any questions or comments? Item I, request for future agenda items. I need two commissioners. There is one. Does anybody have any agenda items to like to add? Great. Item J, the time and date for our upcoming BPAC retreat and meeting is October 25th, 2024. And item K, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
It's like record time.
I gotta.
Like,
Big
it's wasting all that
huge-
time. You're never very effective or efficient.
Awesome.